Hey everyone, welcome. Hope everyone's doing well. Something, you get a lot of recommendations on your side feed in YouTube and so forth. And what I've noticed is I thought I refrained and stopped using the MGTOW acronym just because a long time ago, just because it didn't really mean what it used to mean years ago. And the majority of guys online, it was just about women. It was about women, this, women, that. And now I've even noticed, yesterday it was really prominent. It occurred to me that even Red Pill has become that. Everything's become about women. So you'll probably notice me in my videos now speak even less and less about the Red Pill. Not because I don't want to, because I sort of know what it means to me, and I thought it would mean the same to most people, where it would be synonymous to, say, the Matrix, being awake, being aware of what's going on, and being conscious about it. But now it's just about women, women, women. And fair enough talking about women, but there's no self-reflection. And I hate to be beating a dead horse, but I'm not going to name who I watched yesterday. It was a prominent YouTuber, and he talks about stuff to do with men, but he's fairly intelligent. But he was talking about the red pillars out there, and their opinions about women are X, Y, and Z, and these red pillars are, I'm starting to agree with him in a lot of them, not in terms of putting the community down, but it's just people seem to be talking from a PUA perspective in one way or another, low level or really overt. So I'll be trying to, I'm only human, but I'll probably slip every now and then. But I'm going to be when I'm going to be talking, when I want to say the word red pill, or, as I have been with the MGTOW, I'll try and describe the verb, like, men thinking for themselves, or men introspecting, or masculine thinking, or, you thinking of yourself responsibly, and so forth. It's fairly long-winded, and I hate having to stop and edit myself in real time to sort of communicate what I want to communicate. But when I use these acronyms, very quickly over recent time, sort of more thirsty PUA type men who are annoyed are using it, and they've become the majority. And they're the ones that are making most of the videos. And so I'm not belittling them or anything like that, fair enough, but it's not about what it used to mean. Sort of, you stop using one acronym, you go, okay, I'm going to start saying red pill, I'm going to start saying this. But because we use certain acronyms, they're very specifically about men talking honestly, non-politically correctly, about what is going on with men, how we think, how we might be able to think better, healthier, think clearer. And, you use a catchphrase to be able to identify, that's what we're talking about here, gentlemen. And then all of a sudden, you get all these traditionalist PUA types saying, yeah, I agree with you, human, and we should whatever. And it's always about women. There's very few times you hear them reflecting where they're in the center of the conversation. The perspective is outward. And I think this about the world. And I've been thinking about myself in relation to women and whatever in this way. And I think this is right and this is unfair and so forth. So it's a bit, Okay, let's see some of the comments. No, Armored Ghost, I haven't listened to the latest Stardust video. I've been meaning to. I've saved it in my to watch but I haven't yet. Been busy the last couple of days, but I'm planning to go out for a walk later on, so I'll probably listen to that. That's what I tend to do. The guys, especially that don't do visual videos, that they just kind of do screens and they talk monologues, I usually listen to them on my phone as I walk. In fact, whenever I'm jogging, walking, I can't remember the last time I listen to music. I'll listen to music in my car and sometimes at home. But whenever I'm walking, jogging, and out, I'm always listening to podcasts and spoken word. Always. Literally, I think in the last 10 years especially, I can't remember the last time that I listened to music while I'm jogging and exercising. Remember, if you want to ask questions, gentlemen, put a lot of emojis before or a lot of symbols before and after, just so I can see them on the feed, because I mean, you guys are fine to keep talking. I love the conversation you guys are having with each other, but if you want to ask me a question, make sure you highlight it so I can kind of see it so it stands out. All right. I always wanted to ask, what camera do you use? The quality looks amazing. Thank you. I've put a few filters through it. This is a Panasonic GH5. Probably my most loved camera, but it's pretty old at this point. But it still does things far better than a lot of modern cameras. Because my old link, I had a gear link to another website that used to host gear of people, but I think it's changed and they've gotten rid of a lot of people's pages. So I'm going to put up a gear page on my blog soon. So keep an eye out for that. I'll put a link there and it'll be permanent, and I'll put information about all the gear I use, video and audio. Beautiful little camera. People will say it's not great because the sensor is, smaller than the more popular cameras out there today, but it can do so much more, and you just have to look at the quality of the image. For instance, you won't get as blurry a background, with those big circle blurred out balls like you do with modern cameras. But to me, that looks unrealistic. This actually looks more real, and it's cleaner. I can't describe it, but when you go online and you look at the difference between video of Micro Four Thirds, which this camera is, the Panasonic GH5, and you look at the difference between full frame. Full frame looks beautiful too, but it's a very different kind of look. Whereas this is a lot more natural. It's not as fatiguing on the eye, I think. So perfect for streaming, but also for making film kind of stuff. In my videos, the shots where I've done a lot of time lapse, and you can see the clouds and the environment. It's all done on this little thing. It looks fairly cinematic compared to a lot of other cameras, and it costs about as much as the average middle of the road or middle to slightly better, but a good solid camera that can do everything. But to get the equivalent of what you can get out of this in a high-end full-frame camera will cost you probably like 3 to 4 times the price. So this is cheap and good, really good value for money, but it's older. Anyway, I'll stop talking about gear because I get carried away. I'm assuming most people are in the States. Thanks, John. John says, what for you is the relationship between contentedness and creativity? The relationship between the two. Well, creativity works best for me when in the space of contentedness. So I know for me, I like to design my life in a way where I have these kind of boundaries in my life where I can actually sit in my studio and spend hours indulging in creativity and exploring, or having half a day to sort of go to a coffee shop, although not now because of what's going on in the world. But I've always known that I needed tranquility to be able to be creative within. So that's why chaotic relationships or lifestyles with work where I didn't have any time didn't suit me, because I couldn't be creative. So you need to make this space, the tranquil space, to be creative. That's where you can be free. And you can notice that mostly, say, when you lose your job, you think, oh, well, if I don't have a job, then I'm completely free to be creative. I'll draw, I'll write, I'll do whatever. But you know as well as I do that when you don't have a job, there's this survival anxiety of, where will I get my money from? I won't pay my bills. And so it closes off the door to be calm and tranquil for creativity. So you need the base level needs of Maslow met. And those are the boundaries for me, I found. So I knew that if I was going to get married, I wouldn't have much space at all to just be calm, take a breath, and spend the day, half a day, just playing around and contemplating, have my head down and come up with ideas. And I really get a lot from that. Some people don't care. I do. So yeah, make the space to be creative if that's what you want. That to me is the relationship between the two. I'm sorry the sync between the audio and video isn't as good. Actually, I wonder, because I've set my stream to highest quality, which gives me about a 15-second delay, but that should still sync up the audio and video. If I reduce it, I don't think I can do it now. I might be able to. No, I can't. What I might do next time, I might do a short stream and I'll put it at the lowest quality, which should be no latency. But the quality of the video won't be that good. So your question about, your camera looks great, the video quality looks really good, will be for nothing. But maybe it won't. Who knows? I might give it a shot, Donna. We'll see. It may not be the internet, but it probably is, given the quality of Melbourne internet. I agree. That's pretty shocking. Whenever I talk to guys across the sea, and I'll tell them what my speed is, people in almost second and third world countries have sometimes have internet speeds like 3 to 5 times better than us, which is stupid. The Neostoics. Feral Male says, what if I use that term? You know what'll happen? If it actually is respected and guys start talking about it, you'll get these PUA trad types coming in because it is respectable. And then they're just going to start talking about what women want and what women are like. Women. And you won't hear really a peep from their brain churning over their thoughts about it and what they think. It's all it's almost like they're reporters. The sky is blue, look at the sky, but it's not about yourself. Sometimes I'm kind of sick about repeating it. I feel like a broken record, and I'm sure a lot of other people are, but I just kind of need to just describe what I'm talking about, even if it's long-winded, because I'm all about trying to be sort of finding the right words that mean what I'm saying. I don't want to say 10 words when I can say one. But unfortunately, when it comes to saying those words, you can't. You need to describe them now, because people just jump on board and ruin it. Ahmed goes, thoughts on organic food products? Why not? I'm all about healthy food. If you can afford it, get organic food. Aegis, any podcast recommendations? Not really. I should actually be more diligent in following something consistently in terms of podcasts, but I know that recently Sam Harris has switched his podcast to a subscription based. He's pretty interesting. But not off the top of my head, sorry. Healthy Quadrant. Do you have any recommendations for YouTube MGTOW content? Can you put those here in the chat for us? I don't really listen to very much anymore. Again, broken record. Used to be back in the day, used to be different types of personalities thinking a little bit differently, but we'd all be around the same campfire. Now it's almost like there's separate little Manosphere campfires within MGTOW, for instance. So there's groups of people that follow, that, like, I'll watch TFM's stuff from time to time, but his crowd now has he's got his own kind of group. I've got people have split up, which I'm not a massive fan on, but I suppose that you go to the content and the content creator that sort of you like or is entertaining and so forth, and gives you what you need. But currently, Spetsnaz, Quasimandias, Stardust, Coltane when he produces content, just the basic guy, the classic guys. There's Sunrise Hoodie, there's Kingy MGTOW, John the Other. There's a few that are still producing content that I would still recommend, all those guys. That's what I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah, GH5, for the money, you won't be disappointed. It's small. I really like it because the lenses are small as well. When you pack it in your bag, I never liked the look of a really massive lens on a small camera. I always like the camera to be bigger than the lens. I love that look when you look at a camera. I never like the look of a camera and this massive lens. It just looks stupid and out of balance. It doesn't look like a good design. So everything about the GH5 functionally and aesthetically to me is probably overall, when you check the boxes, still for me, somewhat 5 years later, still the best camera when you look at everything. But in some things it falls far behind, like the autofocus on this thing is one of the worst. So I don't autofocus. This is manual focus. The face tracking isn't that good. Aside from that, and low light is atrocious. So if you want a low light camera, don't get this one. That's why I've got my Canon. You'll notice a difference when I do these videos. These on GH5 Micro Four Thirds. When I do my normal talking headshots in my studio that I post that have a really big, creamy, blurry background, they're on my Canon. Alpha Dog, thank you. You're welcome, man. Thanks for the super chat and thanks for coming in. Paragon says, after watching Quasimandias' video on hermetics, I was surprised to find a lot of truths to it. Have you ever looked at hermetics? If so, what were your thoughts? I haven't in depth. I've actually, I watched one or two of his videos on that. It's really, really interesting. But I don't want to talk too much about it because I haven't looked into it too much. But well worth a look. Definitely have a look at Quasimandias' content. It's a lot more mature, a lot more it's more classically philosophical than my content. The bar is a lot higher with Quasimandias, which is great. You want to be smarter? consume smarter content. But he's got some great thoughts about thinking differently in the context of philosophy. And he talks about it, he tries to make it easily digestible, which is really great. I can't recommend his stuff enough. Especially if you want to go deeper. You find my stuff interesting, but you really want to go deeper in terms of a literary sense, definitely, without a doubt. Look at his stuff. Joseph, how do you deal with having different values to family? Most of my family are super materialistic. I'm the opposite. Ooh, I thought you were going to say they're super conservative, they're pushing you to marriage and stuff. Yeah, that's an interesting one. When the values are really starkly different, where you really feel like the black sheep because they're all lacking empathy. They might be hateful people or so forth, and you can really see yourself. You're embarrassed, and you can see yourself as a nice person in contrast to your own family members. If you can see that, that's a real stark difference, because usually it's easy to see that amongst the general public because they're not in your life. You know, you come across a stranger and I think naturally as a biological organism, you're a bit suspicious and defensive, and you read the person. So you try to work them out. But with your family is figuratively hitting you over the head with the difference of their character compared to yours. I don't think that's you making things up. And as to what you can do, I would say as soon as you can, move out. The thing about life is surrounding yourself with people who are more like you. Not that you're not going to learn from other people, don't stay in an echo chamber, but if you know you're a person with certain values, morals, and ethics, be around those people, even if you've all got different kind of views on things, different temperaments and so forth. But there's nothing worse than being around people that are very, very opposite to your values. Case in point, when you're with a lover that's different to you. You know, someone that's mean and nasty and you're just a nice person. Whatever the relationship is, whether it's you and a job that's not for you. That's why I think this stuff is very important in terms of finding out what you think about stuff, what you think about yourself in relation to the world you interact in. Everything's a relationship. And for you to be aware of the relationship, you're aware of yourself first. And then you objectively, truthfully, honestly know that I know I'm like this. I've observed myself. I've looked inward. I've reflected. And I'm honestly, objectively looking at them or the job or whatever. And that does not match what I want. If I'm being honest with myself, these things do not fit. So if you can, move out of home, or if you can't, be neutral in your interactions. Don't fight them. Don't try to educate them. Don't, unless they're oppressing you, like you need to defend yourself. But if you can get away with just saying, yeah, nah, don't know, being vague, do that until you can be around people or move out of home where you can express yourself without editing yourself. But if the consequences of being you and always going to be anxiety and fighting and feeling bad about the home you live in, try and be as neutral as you can until you can get out of there and be more in environments that are suited to your personality and your values. Yeah, Randy's saying the sync is fine. So Donna, it's probably the internet here in Australia. But I might actually do it as a test next time. Do a no latency stream, but the quality of video will probably be crappy. But I'll be able to read your comments in real time, because right now I'm ahead of you guys in what I'm seeing on screen by about 20 to 30 seconds, which sometimes is a lot. It's odd for me, probably not for you. You're seeing it when YouTube crunches it, gives it enough time, and then spits it out in sync. John says I'm going to change my VPN to Australia. Yeah, I wonder if that'll make a difference. Maybe it is our country's general network. Beavis, I watched your video on winning the lottery. It really made me think I wouldn't do my current job or even associate with the people I do right now. I should make some changes without winning. Exactly. That was the point of the video. Think about what you can do, because sometimes it's convenient to go. Look, I've noticed that people do it with even the smallest things, like just eating healthier, going for a walk, exercising. It's like, yeah, I'll start the diet on Monday. Next week, you watch. When I need to buy these sneakers, or I can't afford it now, but when my tax return comes back, and then I'll do. It's always, I swear I'll do it in the future. And winning the lottery is, I've found, synonymous to that. I swear I'll do it in the future. I'll be happy in the future when that happens. So aside from the money, honestly, what can you do now in the same frame of mind? Imagine you won the lottery today. Okay, you can't buy a Ferrari and all those things. But what would you honestly do now? Because basically winning the lottery is a massive injection of courage. You almost become a god. If you can do that, do it. Why not? Makes you think. That was the point of the video. Whereas I was kind of laughing initially. The first, most of the comments, if you read them under that recent video, everyone, I think that they just saw the title and they said, oh, I do this, I do that, I do this. It's kind of like, but they weren't actually reflecting on sort of what I was meaning or what you were saying. So yeah, it's kind of about courage. How restrictive are the knife laws in Australia? I don't think they're any more or less restrictive than most Western countries. Although I don't really know too much about that. I know we're really restricted in terms of guns, though. I think it's illegal to carry a knife, though. Pretty sure about that. What can I say to a woman to piss her off immediately? Why? No? I don't know. A lot of things. Basically, whatever she wants, if you say the opposite or you don't speak in a language that just says yes or is compliant, basically that. Or even if you generalize about a topic that women like, you'll annoy them. But again, why would you want to? I don't like the whole game of annoying women. Somehow it's payback. You're annoying yourself. You're playing a game of irritation. Yeah, Joe Rogan podcast isn't too bad either. Okay, it's saying the audio stream's current bitrate is lower than the recommended bitrate. We recommend that you use an audio stream bitrate that is different. Okay. Oh, I'll do it next time. Anyway, let's keep the show going. How long have we been going so far? Half an hour. Hi, Dan. Genesis. Yeah, King MGTOW's pretty good. He's really good, actually. He's the kind of guy, again, different life experience. he's grown up differently, but that guy really thinks about things. I wish more guys would ruminate and think about life as a man and not just about women. Really recommend him. So some very, very insightful things. JJ, how are you going? My thoughts on Rollo Tomasi. Nothing against him. He mentions these are the things. A lot of the sort of even the PUA guys back in the day before when they were still, wearing the moniker and they weren't banned, and before all of that happened, they said they were fairly intelligent in their approach, which I can see why a lot of guys, especially younger guys, gravitated towards them. It gave them a language. It gave them a more intelligent, legible language to be able to approach and speak about and communicate with women, talk to themselves about. So there's a lot of sane, rational underpinnings, but it's still driven by women's approval, and women are at the center of it. And that's where a lot get kind of sucked in. They're telling themselves it's not about women, or the kind of guys that, no, I'm going to get buff and massive and ripped and get a six-pack, but it's just about me. It's like it's a degree to which you can fool yourself about why you're in that group or why you consume only that content. I've nothing against Rollo. From what I've heard and seen, he seems like a fairly likable guy. I don't buy the whole gaming your girlfriend or your wife, always trying to keep her by, playing a Rubik's Cube puzzle, making sure she stays because you're trying to impress her and game her and work her out because she's always drifting away. You're playing this game to keep her from drifting away. And yeah, people will say, well, that's the way women are. Sure, but I don't care. I'm pretty sure a friend or my lover wouldn't like me always drifting away and me expecting her to keep me from leaving. It's condescending. It's stupid. Friends don't do it. Family doesn't do it. Any meaningful relationship doesn't do it. And yes, a romantic one with the opposite sex, a partner, a lover, or whatever, it's different. But it's a stupid relationship. I've never liked the stress in that. The anxiety, the walking on eggshells, like, I hope they don't leave me. I'll date, I'll always be in frame. I'll always be in dating frame, in impressing frame, showing that I'm the alpha, that they're always glad that they picked me. I've got to make them conscious. And if I'm not, then I'm afraid they're going to leave me. I couldn't imagine. You can't actually live in tranquility there. That previous question about like having a creative space to be comfortable, like there's no way I can be creative with a woman where I'm always on the anxious walking on eggshells of trying not to get her to leave. Please, because if you do care about someone, you value them, you're always worrying about them leaving. And again, I'm not going to, because people take the analogies literally, but if I've got a dog I love and you go through the equivalent of the dating process, that initial first year or so, the dog gets to know you, you get to know each other's routines. And then after a while, you can actually not have it on the leash. It knows you and it doesn't run off on the road. It stays with you. It listens to you. You listen to it when the dog needs to be fed or when it has its needs of you. You need to serve the dog serves, but you're very compliant to each other. You know each other's language and you accept each other. But it's the equivalent of always having to have her on a leash. Otherwise, she's going to run away. I can never actually have the confidence to take my woman off a leash. This is what game is to me. And, always being in dating frame, is that I'm always desperately never confident she's never going to leave me because I always have to have her on a leash. I don't want to have anyone I care about on a leash. I want to, that's the basis of me being able to trust them, that I can trust that they're there of their own accord. They're not kept to me. Do you think dating and relationships will be more of the same in the 2020s? I think it'll be a lot different given what's happened. Men and women, you think men and women were more separated and divided with what's going on in the world now, economically, what they're doing with sort of isolating us? Like, we're in lockdown now for 6 weeks because it's pretty bad in Victoria. Just think about how few people are actually meeting each other and they care. How many people actually aren't even on dating sites because they don't bother. They can't meet anyway, so I'm not even going to bother anymore. If you get used to not bothering with the opposite sex because there's no even small first step reward of actually going and having a coffee face to face across a person, that's not going to happen. You can't even get the foot in the door of saying hello to a person's face. So it's like the pastime of dating's going. And if it's only going to be online, think about this, if the only interaction dating I'm going to have online like this is the only reality, I would rather look at porn than look at some soccer mum, or, a single mum on a website, or some, bimbo who's sort of got sort of the iPhone filter emojis all over, who looks like a head case. I mean, I'd rather look at exactly what I want online because I'm never going to touch it. Why should I look at someone that I probably can't meet now because of the environment? So I think this environment at the moment is really, I don't think people notice how much it's actually going to affect them. Dating's really going to be affected. Getting together, long-term relationships, having kids. If you're not even going to meet, how are you going to have kids? So people are going to be on their own. More and more, that's what I think. Why do you think 2020 has been such a rough year? I know you don't do politics, just wondering. Basically with, this pestilence that's been going around, the quarantines and all that. As a result of that, all the stuff that comes out of it is the hard bit. A lot of people aren't used to it. They thought that, I can always rely on going on holiday once or twice a year to keep me sane. Now you can't. Not only that, you can't leave your house. If you're not someone who's comfortable sitting alone at home, whereas for me, this is wonderful. This was, if I could have, in the past, if I had like a weekend to myself where I didn't move and didn't go anywhere, I would write it down in my diary and go, I had the best weekend. I didn't go anywhere, didn't do anything aside from going maybe to the supermarket. Just had a really tranquil time, watching movies, making food, maybe going for a walk, doing some of my creative stuff, and it's just really peaceful and comforting. I'm really a homebody, but for people that aren't, who don't like sitting alone at home, who are really gregarious and they have to be outside all the time, I think this is hell for them. And I think there's probably a lot of medication that's been made. They make a lot of money out of it now for people who are anxious and they can't cope with an inner world. They can't cope with being a homebody because they're forced to be now. Feral Male, how about a reading watch list on your About tab as a way to answer that question? Yeah, there's a limit to the characters. Like the amount of text there at the moment for my links, that's the maximum amount. I had to actually cut down a lot. So there's a limit of characters in the About section. Otherwise, yeah, I'd put as much as I could there in terms of basic information that people ask me about. John, I am well versed on hermetics. Good stuff. Yeah, I'm going to write it down. I should be more well versed in it as well. Book recommendation, The Intelligence Paradox. His eyes look like those of Anne Hathaway. Ah, that's an insult. She's not a favourite of mine. I think I was watching listening to a old Monday video where he was talking about the attraction or reproductive attractive strategies that men and women generally sort of employ when they're attracted to each other. Most women these days employ a secondary tactic of just being hot to attract men, whereas back in the past, women employed the beauty attractive standard, which sort of implied a lot of virtue, intelligence, level-headedness, things like that. Man's first priority, first reproductive strategy or attraction to women is that, if she's beautiful, that kind of more implies I want to be with her exclusively. I want her to be the mother of my children. I want to love her, respect her, and be with her forever. The hot strategy is the secondary one, the mating one, where men used to maybe have a woman on the side, or back in history where if they traveled, they'd stop and be with a prostitute and then move to go to the next town and on their way to their journey. That's the evolutionary bargain where your biology says, I can spread my seed and not have to be responsible and move on. That's the hot bargain as opposed to the beautiful bargain. And when I was thinking recently, like what's being projected to women and to men these days is just hotness. It's not reproduction. It's just spread your seed, move on, spread your seed, move on. So the commitment of staying with one person, actually, that isn't being pushed onto people. All that's being pushed on to us is porn, Kim Kardashian, that whole Botox lip kind of thing. And I remember in the video in Mondays, the clip he referenced, I think it was a evolutionary biologist was talking about these two different strategies. The primary one for reproduction was the beauty standard that men use to calibrate their choice of mate. And he kind of posed, can you think, name a woman or picture a woman in your mind that is beautiful but not hot? And can you do that? Because most of the time we can picture a woman that's hot but not necessarily beautiful. Like she doesn't exhibit great qualities and whatever. So we'd like to have, a night with her, but we wouldn't stay with her. And for me, someone that I describe as both beautiful and hot would be what's that woman in the I'm drawing a blank now. The werewolf movies. She's English. Anyway, she's someone I describe as beautiful and hot because she's intelligent. She seems to have good values, well spoken, things like that. But she's also attractive. But the majority of women I think about, they just operate on the hot principle, and there's nothing much else there. Anyway. Found MGTOW in 2011, have noticed since then that it has evolved, whether good or bad. What are your thoughts? I think it's devolved, but maybe in response to the way the world is in terms of social media. I'm not addicted to social media, but I see a lot of people are. It's their umbilical cord to a social life and an existence. You take their phone away, they crumble. They curl up into a ball. So I'm not disregarding that. Randy says, do you think that the current social climate between the sexes will change without women needing to suffer consequences such as civil unrest and economic depression? Probably not. Things are too comfortable. Unless women start to feel anxious, they don't like their lives, and they start to be made to be responsible for their actions, that they're not allowed to fall on the consequences of bad decisions. If we keep giving them concessions, lying to them about the nature of reality, and as a consequence, men's perception as well, then it's just going to continue until people start falling on their face and having cold water splashed on their face. People don't change. You know, if you're constantly watching an anesthetized kind of movie where you can eat donuts as much as you want and you'll never get fat, and, you know, big is beautiful, and women love guys that cry, then it's not going to change. Thanks, Kaz. Donna says, I call shopping centers a temple of consumerism. I'm an anti-consumer and in a better position than most now. I'm 44 years old. Yeah. I've never... That's something about also picking people with values. I used to think that I used to be respectful in terms of when I'd go out in the past with women. I think you don't have to be exactly like me. I can pick someone who's completely opposite because I can respect another being who they are because I respect and know myself, and I don't impose myself on others, and I wouldn't want you to change either, so I can accept anyone. No, that's wrong. Most people are unconscious on autopilot and are working on biology. You have to pick someone who has values that you might think aren't seemingly important, like they like shopping, I don't. But then imagine that lifestyle, that they're always wanting to go shopping and it's annoying you. You want to stay home or you want to go for a walk and they hate going for a walk. They don't own a pair of sneakers. So they're not small things. It took me a long time to learn because I was too not just nice, but too kind of, I didn't expect a lot from the other person. I didn't have a need for them to be like me because I knew I was so used to, you know, we're all individuals. I had no right to make you like what I like. That's not the point. You just find someone who likes generally the perspective that you like, your lifestyle. Shopping's a big thing for me. You know, I learned in my 20s, I can't be with a chick that loves shopping and all that kind of cliche stuff that bimbos like. The lifestyle with that person would be hell. Will females ever grow up? Some do to a degree, depends on what they go through. Life experiences, big shocks that jolt them into a bit of responsibility. Most generally aren't because society doesn't always puts a soft landing underneath them. Nothing they do is wrong. There's never any reason to sort of talk badly to a woman. Never any reason to make her screw her face up, no matter what she's done. How are you supposed to learn? How are you supposed to grow up if you're never being told, no, that's wrong? You're actually completely wrong and you should be embarrassed about that. And then next time you'll be a better person. If you can't even do that, then how are you supposed to learn? You always think you're a goddess. And if you don't get what you want, then you justifiably, according to society, you put everyone else down that's telling you you're supposed to be responsible. I don't know how you do it. Alpha, do you have any suggestions for getting over childhood trauma? Maybe I shouldn't feel entitled to adequate parents. Most left, and I've never really gotten over it. Trauma from childhood's really hard. It's hard to really, you can talk all you want rationally, and I've gone through it too. I had to kind of really confront a lot of my childhood stuff, which is nothing compared to what some people have gone through. You know, mine's nothing, but still, I found it hard. So I can imagine people who had something really hard happen, like, you know, their mother or father left them, abandoned them when they were like, you know, 3 or 5 years old, and just really traumatic stuff that gets burnt into you. It's not a scratch, it's a scar. It's like a limb being cut off. And you can talk to yourself rationally and nod your head, but you still feel what you feel. So all I can say is be diligent in rationally speaking to yourself, the stuff we talk about, you know, philosophically, you know, talk to yourself and develop your ethics the way you would be talking to your best friend. Always talk to yourself in that language. and learn as much rationally like this as you can, because the fact that you're here and we're talking about this makes you know that this is the better way to go about life. The more you exercise this over time, I found time actually helps. Because if you're always exercising this form of communication and thinking, rather than just going on autopilot and saying, you know what, I give up, I'm just going to go along with all the cattle out there and all the lemmings, then you're just going to start thinking and operating like them and getting triggered and offended and entitled and, you know, feeling anxious like them. So doing more of this over time, I think, will help you. But it is hard, especially with childhood stuff. People who don't have to overcome or look in the mirror, don't know how hard it can be. Oh, your mum left. That's a hard one. Yeah, the friend I was talking about the other day, his mum abandoned him when he was 3. I mean, I thought I had it bad in terms of the way women were when I was dating. I was a people pleaser, always wanting a woman to love me. He had it 10 times worse than me. And he still can't really admit it because the scars are so deep. He doesn't have a scar. He had a limb cut off and he still thinks he didn't. And even the degree to which he does recognize how much that thing affected him, his hamster wheel is justifying so much danger in terms of women, like the woman he's about to marry. And there's not much you can say other than try to talk to yourself as rationally and as sympathetically as you can. That's all I can suggest over time. And surround yourself with people that you respect what they're saying. They're speaking to you in a way that makes sense to you. Do that. Don't just speak to yourself in the way that makes sense. Surround yourself with people that speak to you in that same way, that don't make you hate yourself, that make you feel like, you know, you're progressing, that you're getting good medicine, whatever that medicine is that you need. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Exactly. I think, who was it? Casey Neistat or somebody a while ago said, good is better than perfect. Just get it done. I tended to be in the past a perfectionist. It's not the right way to go, whether it's with creative work, with relationships as well. I'm not saying be aware of the big things that are wrong, but nothing will be perfect. You're not perfect. You need to get over perfection for your own good. Morning, L2 play. Feral male. Easiest way to piss off a woman is to ignore them. Yeah, that's annoying. But hi Silver. I won $11 on Powerball Thursday. The ticket cost me $70. Joe says it's not only about courage, I would say it's about willpower. I think he's talking about my recent video. Sometimes willpower, people have it naturally more than others. Some people have a natural reflex to go, oh, what's the point, because the world is this way. Whereas mine is, the world is this way, but I want to do what I want. I'm kind of rebellious and very, very I have a big sense of self-preservation and don't tell me what to do. Sometimes the natural reflex you have in you helps a lot too. You don't have to do a lot of heavy lifting to get to willpower. Some people do. Healthy Quadrant. My friend invited me to a strip club last night. He paid my way, had a lap dance. I chose the most attractive one and barely got my heart going. What to do about low desire? Yeah, I was similar, because to me, it's not real. I can't have her. I can't touch her. Nothing will happen. Or if it does, I have to pay for it, literally. At least with a woman, until you get to know her, if you can trust that she's not materialistic, you go through a process where she's proving herself. So you're in the process of reality to actually see if you can get someone with a modicum of virtue that you respect. But someone you literally have to pay, like a stripper or a prostitute or an escort. Some guys can go along with the game and say, well, you pay your girlfriend anyway, I just want sex. They can do it. But I need more reality. It's too overt a transaction to me. I need probably intimacy, like genuine intimacy and affection, not manufactured. Again, maybe it's just a bit too much reality that I need. I wish I could, in some small regard, then I'd probably be able to sort of hire escorts and get a lot of the stuff that I'd need from a woman out of the way. What I like about women is their smell and touch, head on my shoulder, just hanging out with them, things like that, those tactile experiences. I feel like she's fooling me if I hand over money for her to do it, literally. Okay. See, there's a latency with the comments coming up. I don't know if it gets filtered through YouTube first. Maybe that's why it's delaying them before it gets to me. That could actually be it too. Wet Palette Warrior. Is the Manosphere becoming purgatory for men who cannot get past the red pill rage or who are looking for catharsis instead of personal introspection? That's a very good point. Very good point. I would say yes for a lot of them. That's a very good observation. Reproducing is highly overrated. Yes and no. Look, I can be sympathetic to guys. It's so natural. It's the reason why we're here. I know that I am odd, where I've never had that wiring. It's probably due to childhood stuff. I know I'm abnormal in that way. Majority of guys just simply being biological animals need to reproduce, have a need to reproduce. I never had that, so lucky, unlucky, I don't know. But it's not that overrated because it's why we're here. We wouldn't be talking. But for me, yeah, I think it is personally. But objectively, no, I don't think it's overrated. Damien, love the lack of background music in these streams. Yeah, some people in my normal videos, they don't like the background music. They just want it completely quiet. And sometimes I do it, but I mix it up depending on sometimes on the topic I'm talking about. I think, like, it'll get belittled with music. Other topics aren't harmed by some sort of elevator music in the background that I create. Okay. Armored Ghost. Mondays seem to believe in finding a deep connection with a woman. If it's not impossible, how likely is it, realistically speaking? That's a good question. I am not looking for it, but the only way I will ever entertain actually having another long-term committed relationship with someone is if I have that kind of connection I do with a friend. Basically, I can't judge a woman anymore. I can only value and judge her in the same way I value a man who's going to be my best friend or a family member. People in my life that I can really trust when I need them, and vice versa. So with that, I think comes the connection and all that kind of stuff. But kind of looking at it, like I want to find the connection with a woman in that kind of romantic sense. You're jumping 10 steps ahead. And in that kind of wanting and that and the need for that, or the want for that, you can overlook the real basic organic growth of like just finding a good friend that you can trust and have a normal connection with. Sometimes we heighten it. I want this bigger than the world, intimate connection with one other person that's different to everything else. Okay, I'm scrolling down these. Thanks again, VKRGFN. Is that how you say it? I can never say all those letters comfortably. It's really hard to pronounce. Thanks for the super chat. I to play, thank you. After the red pill, I've noticed the lack of drive I once had, career, bodybuilding, etc. If the initial motivation was female validation, in your opinion, what course correction can a red pill man take? In a lot of ways, the kind of waking up to that you described, like the things that you used to do, you realize you don't want to do them anymore because they were driven by something else. That's a good thing. But now it's like you really need to be honest. So there were a few things years ago where I kind of as well, like cleared the decks after I made a big life change, and I would only allow things back in. Like I was even prepared to not want to pursue photography anymore, not want to draw, not want to write. But I literally went minimalist, wiped everything clean, left my job because it was really stressing me out, and basically would only let things in that really, really spoke to me, that were me. I was tired of carrying things for others, for the world, for routine, or what I was used to. I was no longer the teenager. And some of these jobs, things, and beliefs, we just carry them over from our younger years. It's time to kind of reevaluate and go, out with the old and just in with not the new, but the who you are, who you really are. And slowly I let things in, and I grabbed a pencil and started writing and found out like, no, this is me. This is going to be me always. This will never leave me. This is part of me. Other things, like I remember I loved pizza. I discovered I didn't love pizza. I liked it. I didn't love it. Because I used to make a ritual of every night, Friday night, I'd come home from work. That would be my reward. I'd just spend time on my own, order a pizza and watch a movie and just decompress from the week. And that was my little oasis place where I wouldn't hang out with anybody, just on my own. And then I found out I didn't love pizza that much. It was what pizza actually signified in terms of a safe space for me. So it's, in a way, it's good, but you just need to find real things that motivate you now. And if they don't, maybe just do a few of the old things that used to really, really do it for you, but maybe in a smaller way. Instead of, because I used to really be into bodybuilding when I was in my late 20s. I still lift weights and exercise, but it's to a lower degree. I do it as activities that I enjoy. So I go hiking. I'll do 15-minute workouts in the morning and night, things like that. I'll do them because I know they're beneficial for health, but I'm not going to obsessively be a fitness guy because I know now what that means. It was really for a lot of female validation, but now I'm doing it for health reasons for me, so I can enjoy my life with family and friends and be around and things like that. Alpha dog. I've been that man waiting while his girlfriend tries on shoes, the loser holding the purse. Yeah, I've been that guy too. And then you ask her in a guy's way to sort of go into your world and be, 1/10 of that, and she'll screw her nose up. That's one of the things when you come into, and now I've got to find the words, like waking up philosophy, all this kind of modern stoicism, let's say that, is that you realize the imbalance and unfairness. It's got nothing to do with the differences between men and women, which there are biological ones. We're suited to different things, but just the basic unfairness of treating a person far outweighing what, you know, the other person expects and gives. You know, that's what really annoyed me, and that's what, you know, this modern kind of stoicism for men revealed to me. It's like, this is philosophically completely unfair and insulting. And that perspective really helps you stand up for yourself too. One man's way. Oh, thanks very much, man, for the super chat. It's very generous. I really appreciate it. Any tips on getting over an ex? Every time I start to get over her, she shows back in my life, puts the emotional hooks back in, and ghosts again. Oh, I don't know. This is some of what my friend's going through, and he's about to marry this woman. He's lost count of the number of times she's left when she's been upset, or they've had an argument or a disagreement, or she doesn't get her way. He doesn't hear from her for weeks, and then she just comes back of her own accord and doesn't really apologize. Her apology is like, well, I felt this way, that's why I did it. Boo-hoo-hoo. And so it's not an apology, it's just like this justification that you're an arsehole, that's why I did it. I wasn't wrong. I don't know what you can do other than ignore, ignore, ignore. Don't be nice. If they're not being nice to you, even if they're being awful by simply removing themselves, that's not being nice. If you're trying and they're not trying, if they're holding their breath while you're trying to communicate, if you're trying to give and they're holding back and they're just not saying anything on purpose, they're negating things from you to punish you, to make you pay for revenge, that's not a good communication. Because sometimes guys can say, well, she's not really doing anything aside from nothing. But if you're doing everything and she's intentionally doing nothing, or disappearing or ghosting, she's doing something. And if you communicate that to her, especially communicate as much as you can to her, tell her how you feel, tell her what she's doing is wrong, and tell her exactly how in comparison to you, especially. Look, I'm doing A, B, and C. I tell you how I feel. I tell you what I want. I don't lie to you. You lie, you leave, you don't say things, you ghost me. What if I treated you like this? You wouldn't like it. If they still don't care, put it this way, care as much as they do. Don't raise your standards above them. If they ghost you, treat them not in the same way, tit for tat, but care as much as they do. So don't try any more than they're ghosting. Put it that way. I know it's easier said than done, one man's way, but you're being too nice. Surround yourself with other people, especially other guys. You'll feel better. I know you're not going to get what you get from a woman if you're a heterosexual man, but stop being too nice. You are wasting your time. You are wasting your time. Your time is valuable as a man. You'll get to my age and you'll wonder why you wasted so much time with all these different women. You're being too nice. And you can excuse them by saying, well, they didn't overtly, like, you know, throw a plate at me. They didn't sort of scream at me and call me this or that. But their actions are showing how little they care. If you're caring by comparison to them, like if there's such a discrepancy, that is showing you why you two aren't compatible. And if she's not willing to listen or care about your point of view, she still expects you to give 110%, but she's barely willing to give you 5%. You're wasting your life. And if you marry this person and have children, guess what? She's going to barely give 1%, and you're going to be giving 300%. And if you don't, you know what's going to happen. There's that fear of she's going to take everything from you. Be fair with yourself. Surround yourself with better friends, not just her. A lot of guys just only have her and don't really have other friends, so they feel like if she goes, there's my interaction with reality, with another person, with being able to express and talk to somebody. Remember, someone like that, they are replaceable. You can replace a person like that easily. It's callous, but they're not a nice person. I can replace an arsehole with a million. I can throw a rock at a million of them in the street just because she happens to be your little arsehole. Sorry, I don't mean to sort of put down the girl you have feelings for, but she's not treating you well. I would be more sympathetic and talk more well of her if you were just simply having communication troubles and your personalities were different. But she's overtly treating you badly, and you're not, by the sounds of it. Alpha Dog, thank you for the super chat. Mum left when I was young. Talk therapy hasn't done much. Like you said, once most female therapists just talk about themselves. Yeah. Most therapy is female-based, and 90-something% of therapists are female. And the majority of them, 9 out of 10, I've heard from credible sources. Paul Elam's reflected this. I've read the literature. I've talked to almost every female who's in the industry. She got into it to work herself out. Once she felt she did, then she could act like God and impose her will on others. Just in the same way they get into relationships with men and like telling men what to do, they can now be a therapist and get off on the same feeling. Now I can tell everyone what to do. I can tell other women what to do. Considering that women are very competitive with each other, that gives women who are therapists a sense of authority over other women, over other men. So it's kind of a God complex they get once they think they've worked themselves out. They haven't, because you see them whenever, if you go into a therapy session and you talk about your own problems with women, even if you're being I honestly, I haven't been, but I've talked to guys who are intelligent and more intelligent than me, who have been to therapy, and I know the way they speak. And they're not rude, and they're talking about their needs as men. The therapist always will come back with, well, maybe do you think it's your problem because of blah, 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 and you're not considering her, blah, blah, blah. So it's always like they're being too self-referential. They're placing themselves in the equation, but instead of actually listening to this man who's come to therapy, his own problems. So a woman can't help but make it about herself. That's why I think therapy is going to become more and more dangerous, just by the fact of numbers. Most therapists are female. And if you're trying to legitimately work out your problems, find a good therapist, male or female. But if you're a man, chances are another man is probably going to understand you a bit better. But find a therapist that speaks your language, and your instincts and feelings tell you that he's listening to you and it's not about them. Most of them, it's still about them. Thinking Ape's idea of male mother need may be applicable. Yes. Always, I think, is to a degree. Okay, guys, it's just gone over an hour. I'll probably start wrapping it up soon. So, accountability is lost on women. Healthy quadrant. Yeah, most women. I think just by the simple fact they're really resistant to saying sorry. I think because of their nature, they're hardwired to be passive. Like, they don't ask men out. They don't say what they want. They get what they want by covert tactics. It's too embarrassing for them to be rejected. So their idea of game is wearing revealing clothing and just putting themselves in the vision of a man and just pretending to be aloof. And then when the man asks them out, it's like, oh, well, I'm glad that worked, secretly in their head. But they'll use the plausible deniability of, oh, I was just standing here and he just came up to me. Look, I was just so beautiful. But they want it to be noticed. So women go through a lot of that. That informs a lot of their character, how they operate, and so forth. So in some ways, I don't blame them, but in other ways, yeah, you're an adult. You need to be accountable for the way you act too. You can't always say it's never my fault. Yep, live for yourself. but cooperatively live for yourself. Just living on your own in a room locked and not talking to anyone, you're gonna shrivel up. It's not a way to live. Healthy Quadrant, Read Manipulated Man. Yeah, that's a good one. Esther Villar. Human, when relationships spiral out of control in the land down under, do they rotate clockwise due to the Coriolis effect? In such a case, does damage control take on an inverted course? Very intelligent, Omega. Unfortunately, it spirals in the southern hemisphere in the same way it spirals in the northern, unfortunately. I wish it didn't. That way all men could sort of just live on one side of the planet because that side of the planet made sense. Imagine that. You could pick anybody as a partner and it would just naturally just get better and better and better and better. You wouldn't even need... we wouldn't be thinking. We wouldn't be discerning. We wouldn't survive. Wouldn't it be nice? One Green Mitzi, what do you think of stage 4 coming this week in Victoria? Oh, geez, if it does. We've been getting, I think, in every day, like, 2 days ago, we had 860 cases in one day, and we're getting towards the thousands every single day, approaching. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think stage 4 will be, we already can't go out in public without a mask on. I think stage 4 will be, you can only go to the shopping centre and you won't be able to go to work. Right now I still go to work and I have all the precautions, but I don't know what's going to happen. All unpredictable. Paragon says, in my opinion, I think that a small minority of men are becoming more spiritualist and looking inwards. Do you think more men will look inwards, or will it always be a small minority? I think it'll always be a small minority. But even the guys that are looking inwards, sometimes you hear them talk that they're trying to be another person in terms of a philosopher, even though you can tell they're reading a lot, but they're not being themselves. The language they're using, it's almost like they're reading from Shakespeare, or they're on stage and they're being philosophical, but they're not just kind of, you can tell it's not them being smart and being informed and learning from their mistakes and really being introspective. They're throwing up a lot of meme-like cliches regarding philosophy and spirituality and Buddhist quotes and things like that really are ephemeral. They don't really mean much. The way I describe it is like a person that uses a lot of lexical ambiguity. It really is kind of like, it reminds me of those female memes you see posted on Facebook and so forth about, just believe and the universe will give you the right kind of energy and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a fan of all that. It doesn't help a man, especially. Okay, guys, I think I'll start probably wrapping it up if there's no more questions. Therapy is gynocentric. Generally, yes. You need to find a good therapist. If you don't feel like that therapist is not your friend, but has the feeling like a person that understands you like a friend, move on, find someone else. Because you won't be able to open up to someone that you're not comfortable with. Surveyaj, Jav, whatever. Sorry, man. What do you think is the biggest character flaw today in modern day people? Naivety, believing everything they're told on to. Fear, fearing irrationally. Like, from what I hear of my father and the older generation, they can't believe how much people fear today. We fear more than we should. Okay, guys. If there's no more, I'm going to wrap it up. It's been an hour and a half. I want to keep these around an hour. We've already gone a little bit. So, yeah, we'll talk next time, and thank you everyone who chimed in. We'll do it again. I'll just quickly, Paragon says, thanks for the answer. Just want to learn, but how do you apply the knowledge in your own life? You keep absorbing it, and then you'll start to sort of see how you can make it practical. The easiest way for me is to speak about it when it's there in conversation with others. Because in the past, you can read stuff, but you don't have the courage to actually speak about it openly. Then when you start to sort of give yourself permission to kind of, in conversation with others, go, no, this is my opinion, and you're not embarrassed about it, and you have every right to do it, you start to feel better about having the courage to do that. The more you can start speaking this stuff, that's when you'll start feeling better, because it's become practical. Ethics are practical values. You can learn all you want and keep it in your head and enjoy it in private like this and online, and you comment and argue. All it is then it's just intellectual porn. When it becomes practical, when you're proud enough to come out and talk about it, it's your language and you have every right and you're not embarrassed about it. That's when I found, for me, life got exponentially better. Yeah, we get wild snakes everywhere in Australia, including Victoria. They're pretty much everywhere. Okay, guys. Thank you for that. We're cutting it off. It was really good talking today. And we'll do it again soon. See you later. Bye.